It's your favorite local magazine come to life on the radio. Area experts giving you tips and tricks on everything you need to know. It's Expert Insights. Now, here's your host, Deb Keating.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Expert Insight Show brought to you by South Shore Connections, where we would like to invite any of our listeners out there to either nominate a guest or become a guest yourself. If you own or work at a local business and you would like to tell your story, please reach out to us at southshoreconnections.com or on our Facebook or Instagram at South Shore Connections, because every week we interview a different local business owner, and often they are our marketing clients and we help them brand themselves on the South Shore. And today we are super excited to have one of our favorite clients who we've been working with for a very long time. And actually, my family has been a personal patient of Dr. Mark Powicki from Powicki Physical Therapy. Welcome, Dr. Mark.
Welcome, Deb. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's funny to call you Dr. Mark on the air because you have done so much for my family that you're just Mark to us.
Well, listen, that's fine. I want my patients to. I don't use the doctor thing only when it serves me professionally. But my patients, I want them to feel like it's a real relationship, a connection, because that's what it's all about. Kind of like South Shore Connections.
Correct.
Yes.
And actually, thank you for the plug. But actually, I'm very spontaneous on the air, and I never know what I'm going to say. But it was kind of serendipitous, this conversation that we're having right now about Dr. Mark. And the reason is that I think it's really important for people to know that when you're seeing a physical therapist, it's important that you're seeing somebody with experience and who is actually a doctor of physical therapy, not somebody out there that's just kind of a hobbyist trying to figure out how to fix your body. Because at the end of the day, just like a quote-unquote regular doctor of primary care, you are in charge of people's bodies and in charge of how they feel. So I think it's really important for me to share my personal testimonial about what you have done for our family and many, many other families and people on the South Shore, because you're sort of the magical physical therapist. I remember when I first walked into your clinic, and I'm looking around saying, I have no idea what half of these contraptions are. I was a little nervous because I'm like, I'm walking into a space with some things that have belts and stretching things, but at the end of the day, I realized that's what makes you really unique. It is not just your everyday physical therapy where, you give someone knee exercises and you tell them to go home and practice with their weights. You really have a really, really unique approach to your physical therapy practice. So I want to start off with probably what's the most important question. What makes you different? What separates you from other physical therapists?
Well, that you kind of intimated and started out with it, out of the gate. I owned my own practice for 20 years, and we hired physical therapists, and we kind of had that. We tried never to have that cookie cutter approach. So that's always been a big part of who I am. Is treating each patient as they walk in. They're not just an injury to me. They're, everything is a relationship. And for me, what really makes it different is not just treating the injury. I treat the entire person. And so what does that mean? It means that I'm trying to get to the root of the problem, try to figure out what's causing their problems or issues. And because a lot of times where people are having pain that's just where their symptoms are popping up. But in general, I don't want to just have them recover from an injury. I want them to be better than they were before they were even injured, if that makes sense. Like, I work with a lot of, healthy athletes, people that just want to be better, perform better in their own body, whether they're an athlete or that they want to, work out or golf or do things. And so helping people kind of live their best life is what I'm all about. And so I have a bunch of different approaches to do that, and and that's why I my job's different every day, because I kind of approach each patient that way. So
Well, certainly I've had firsthand experience with that because I feel like I came in with different problems by the minute. I'm like, I don't know why my back hurts. I don't know why my knee hurts. And really, that is to me where you shine, because it's, as I said, not just your routine PT. And so can you talk a little bit about some of the unique approaches that you do when you see a patient?
Yeah, so first and foremost, like I'm a big believer in kind of posture and making sure. So when you go in, when people come in to see me, one of the first things that I try to do is look at people's posture and see where they're. Yes, everyone sits
I'm
up.
Sitting up now.
We all sit up straighter when we talk about posture. But a lot of times, what people are presenting with may or may not even be what the problem is. So I try to work to get people in the right posture first, right alignment, make sure, before they start exercising and doing all these things. Because a lot of times, even doctors, medical doctors will diagnose people, but they're seeing them in a snapshot, and it's like, what they're seeing may not be the real underlying cause. So for me, looking at, people's underlying posture, get them realigned, and then see when the dust settles, okay, what are we actually dealing with? What's the actual problem? And basically I have a manual approach, which means that I kind of get people aligned in a variety of different ways. I'll tell people I'm combination of like a physical therapist, chiropractor, massage therapist, and professional wrestler, depending on what type of positions I need to get people in to get them feeling better. But basically, I want to get people in the best postural position and then reinforce that with exercise. Rather than have people just start exercising when they're out of alignment, because then they're just reinforcing the underlying problem, or it's like the definition of insanity. They're not necessarily going to get better until they're aligned. So,
and I had no idea that I had such major arthritis in my knee. I exercise all the time, but I never have done, the hardcore jumping or running. And so my knee was bothering me for quite some time until finally I said, I better get an MRI just to check it out. And I'll never forget when the doctor called me and said, he barely said hello. He just said, "You must be in a lot of pain." And I was like, oh, wow, I guess I have high pain tolerance. So I came to you because sometimes it's ironic. I needed to strengthen my quad in order to help my knee. I would have never thought that. And even from going to, other places that do different things, whether it, like you said, it's a chiropractor, a massage therapist, or what have you, you integrate all of that into one visit. And I think that is something super unique. It's sort of like one-stop shopping.
No. Well, first of all, I it's funny, arthritis, it's kind of one of my pet peeves because people come in and doctors use it as a diagnosis. And I tell people arthritis isn't a diagnosis, it's a symptom. And what I mean by that is after the age 18, our bodies start breaking down and we show signs of wear and tear. So arthro means joint, itis is inflammation, so it's joint inflammation. But we can have wear and tear without the inflammation. So I'm riddled with arthritis, and I have, I've had MRIs and a bunch of injuries from playing sports and a bunch of other things, but, I can live pain-free and still live with arthritis. And so people are always, so when people come in and say, well, my doctor said I got arthritis, I'm like, yeah, join the club.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, everyone does.
Right.
But the thing is, you don't have to be in pain, and if you know what to do and know how to balance out your body, balance out the joints, you can stop. It's not necessarily that I can stop the wear and tear, but if I can, a lot of times eliminate the pain by once you balance out their body and then kind of balance the joints through strengthening exercises and education, it's huge for people. So.
Absolutely. And in fact, just to remind the audience, we are here with Dr. Mark Powicki of Powicki Physical Therapy in Duxbury. And tell the audience where they can find you, by the way, before we continue.
So I'm located in the Duxplex, which is an indoor sports facility in Duxbury. It's located at 50 Railroad Ave in Duxbury, Massachusetts. If you're familiar with the Oysterman restaurant, we're we're big right behind the Oysterman restaurant, so I have an office in there.
And what about your website, especially spell your name, because that's a tricky one.
No, Powicki, it's Powicki, Powicki. So it's PowickiPTDuxbury.com. You can check out my website.
Okay, great. The other thing, Mark, I'm just playing off of what you said with respect to arthritis again, and the reason why I'm focusing on that, not only because I personally have experienced that and had you help me with that, but like you said, who doesn't have arthritis? And I think about how limiting that might be for some people if they allow it. It's a vicious circle in the sense that, oh, I have arthritis, so I can't exercise. I don't exercise, so I have more arthritis. The cool thing is that I am exercising like I've never had an issue. Yoga, for a while, I couldn't do, whether it was downward dog or child pose. For those of you who do yoga, you know that requires that you bend down all the way to the floor. And now I can do all those things. So arthritis is just a label, but with what you do so uniquely, whether it's arthritis or someone who really is recovering from an injury or injury prevention, again, your approach is super holistic. Is there something about the holistic piece that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so holistic, I always tell people, so first and foremost, like getting people to understand their body. So when you have an injury, number one, it's not just about giving people exercise. One of my pet peeves when people come to me from other places and they have all the pages of exercises that they've been doing and they don't know why they're doing them or what order or whatever. Like, the exercises are important, but the understanding and the body awareness is really key. So what do I mean by that? Like, I want my patients to be able to take what I've taught them and apply it to their life. So for you, for example, it's with yoga, you know how to maintain your posture, not just during the day, but, you can, we've educated you at, okay, there's certain moves in yoga that may or may not be, great for you, but here's how you can make adjustments. So if you can learn how to navigate your own life in whatever activities you're doing, then you can avoid the kind of the pitfalls that cause irritation, inflammation, and whatever. When people think about, exercise, well, I need to exercise or I need strengthening, they have this image like, I need to take up jogging or I need to lift heavy weights. And you need to find a mode of exercise and activity that suits you and your body, that's going to kind of give you the results, get you feeling, I tell people if you're not feeling, first of all, exercise should not cause you pain. Any activity shouldn't be causing you pain. And if it's not improving your strength, endurance, your overall mobility and flexibility, you're doing something wrong. So.
Well, and I also want to mention that you're a strength and conditioning coach, because physical therapy doesn't always have to be injury rehabilitation. It can also be injury prevention or just making you more effective in your support.
Yeah, no, I work with a lot of, athletes on sports performance stuff, whether, high school or just recreational kind of, even people retired. One of my favorite patients is a gentleman. He's 91 years old, former Marine. He works out every day. He's an absolute inspiration, to me and to many others. But his line, he comes in to see me, and he came to see me for an injury initially, but then he said, since I've been working with you, he goes, I don't know what the hell you do, but he goes, all I know is after you're done with me, I hit the ball 20 yards further. So he keeps coming to see me because I'm able to kind of, give him things to do. And so he's still making progress at 91, which is amazing to me. And, but I mean, he does the work, he pays attention and, and that's half the battle. And he doesn't accept, that's the other thing with people. I think, it's kind of a paradigm shift, because doctors tend to put stigmas on people and say, well, you're getting older, you can't do this. And it's like, my thing is, you have to do things differently. You have to be educated, but the worst thing you can do is accept your age in whatever. You may have to limit things a little bit based on as you get older from a safety standpoint. But trying to take it easy is not the way to go. In other words, staying active, staying involved is paramount, and so you can live your best life. It's critical.
And I love that that's your tagline. And thank you, by the way, for your sponsorship of Duxbury Neighbors Magazine, as Dr. Mark is the expert who gets to write in quarterly about tips and tricks. I know before we go to a break, I'll just tell this quick story. My friend is a skier, and she lives in Duxbury, so she gets the magazine. And she took a picture of the how to prep for ski season that's sitting on her refrigerator from a year ago. She's still looking at it because you offer great tips and tricks about how to prepare for different sports and things like that. And maybe we'll get into some of that after the break. But we are here with Dr. Mark Powicki of Powicki Physical Therapy right here in Duxbury. And stay tuned for more information. Just give the audience one more time where they can find you.
So you can reach out to me if you want to call me. It's 781-820-0759. That's 781-820-0759. And you can check out my website. It's Powicki, Powicki, P as in Peter, T as in Tom, Duxbury.com. So it's PowickiPT.Duxbury.com.
Stay tuned for more expert insights on WATD.
South Shore Connections is your go-to source for all the happenings in your town. When you want to know what's going on in your community, hear it straight from the people who know. With monthly messages from the schools, the library, the senior center, the rec department, and more, the Neighbors magazines and South Shore Connections keep you up to date on all the latest in town, focusing on positive, inspiring stories about residents and businesses in the Duxbury, Marshfield, and Norwell communities. If you're a local business owner, consider partnering with South Shore Connections. When you do, you gain access to an unmatched multi-platform network with print and digital, in-person networking groups featuring organizations across the South Shore, and our talk show, Expert Insights, airing on 95.9 WATD on Sunday mornings. Follow South Shore Connections on social media or visit our website, southshoreconnections.com, to learn how we connect local businesses to residents on the South Shore. To get your community magazine today, visit southshoreconnections.com. Hey business owners, do you want an opportunity to grow your brand on the South Shore? If you'd like to be a guest on the Expert Insight Show, which runs on WATD and also becomes your own personal podcast, reach out to us at southshoreconnections.com and fill out the form to learn more.
Back to Expert Insights and your host, Deb Keating.
Welcome back to the Expert Insight Show, where we are here with Dr. Mark Powicki of Powicki Physical Therapy in Duxbury. And we are talking about all things related to making sure you live your best life in your body. And it's not just specifically physical therapy. There are so many other things that Dr. Mark does. It's really one-stop shopping. If you have an ailment and it relates to your body, particularly, for instance, body alignment and posture and different types of preparation for sports activities. And another topic that we're going to get into, what do you do pre-surgery? And during the break, I think we came up with a new coin, prehab. Instead of rehab, we're going to prehab you and give you some tips and tricks on that. But I want to tap into the posture question, which is, what are some tips on having really, really good posture as I wiggle in my seat and pull in my core? And why is posture so important?
So posture, number one, posture is like how we do things during the day, how we deal with gravity, kind of determines everything that we do. So if we have, a lot of times people think they can undo their posture. They sit at a desk all day and they, like if you monitor your posture, I tell people posture is the number one thing that you can do all the time. And if you're sitting up straight, keeping your core engaged, I'll get into the tips in a second. But then when if you never get out of having good posture, you never have to to train to get back into it. So you can eliminate a lot of stress and strain on your body. So as far as like for standing posture, I basically tell people you want to be 50-50 through your feet, meaning like your weight bearing should be between your heels and the ball of your foot. In order to know if you're 50-50, you should be able to raise your toes off the ground, in standing. So in other words, with relative ease, without shifting your weight back on your heels. So people tend to stand with their weight on the balls of their feet. So that's the first tip. Second tip is learn how to engage your core properly. That's key, because engaging your core, people know that the core is important. How to engage it. A quick trick that I teach my patients is just to cough or clear your throat. Make sure you're engaging in the front, muscles in the front, the sides, and the back, everything that surrounds your spine. And the third tip would be keep your head in alignment with your shoulders. So in other words, your shoulder blades are engaged, your head is over your shoulders. Avoid a lot of stuff looking down. So people don't realize this. The average head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. And when they're holding their, talking on their phone, I always tell people to rest your elbows on your cell phone, rest it on your elbows on your ribs. Because if you look down at your phone, when you incorporate the force of gravity, so the average head weighs 10 to 12 pounds, 60 pounds of neck flexion actually makes the head weigh 60 pounds. So if you're looking down at your phone all day with 60 pounds of pull, people wonder why they have tech neck or neck pain or, headaches from stress and things like that. So those are one of the big things that, you can just make yourself feel better by maintaining, your posture.
Those are great tips. In fact, so great that I'm going to ask you to write about them in your next article for Duxbury Neighbors, because I think everybody can relate to tech neck. Everybody can relate to really understanding the importance of how posture can affect your whole body. Speaking of how it affects your whole body, I know you do some really unique things with people's feet. So talk about how feet relate to your posture and therefore your whole body alignment.
So feet are a big part of, like, when you think about your foot is really the first thing that comes in contact with the ground. So how your feet react to that contact kind of determines where your body's going to go, and how it's going to, everything all the way up the entire chain. So if your feet are off, it's like, having a nice house with crummy foundation. A lot of times if the foundation's off, it doesn't matter how nice the house is. So for me, looking at people's feet and looking at their posture, because, I make what's called custom orthotics, which are custom arch supports, which actually restore, if people have foot issues or improper foot mechanics, I can actually correct that with these orthotics, and they're customized for the my patients, my clients, for their body weight, their foot flexibility, etc. But what it does is people don't realize that their feet play into what's going on in their body. I mean, I've cured not only foot injuries like plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, also knee pain, hip pain, and even back pain from putting orthotics in people's shoes. So getting people the right getting people to feel the right way is important for not only avoiding injuries, but also kind of being your best self and living your best life.
As a matter of fact, you don't know this story, but yesterday I went to go get new sneakers, and it was very spontaneous. And so I tried on different shoes and what have you, and I didn't have my orthotics with me because I was wearing a different pair of shoes when I came in. And I said to the lady, these are the shoes that I want, but I'm not going to buy them until I go get my custom orthotics and make sure the way I feel with my custom orthotics in my existing shoes fits and feels the same. Point being, because those custom orthotics have been game changer for me, for my knee, for my back. And again, who would think that when you go to a physical therapist that person would make you custom orthotics for your feet? I love what you do on the prelude, where you tape your feet to see if you really understand the value of the orthotics for you, to make sure that you feel the difference with the tape before you actually invest in a pair of custom orthotics. So again, all of these stories that I can tell, I've lived firsthand. Again, we're here with Dr. Mark Powicki of Powicki Physical Therapy. And speaking of firsthand, we have my husband in the studio today, and you were able to do that prehab for him before he had surgery. Actually, you even delayed the surgery for him because he needed a hip replacement, but he wanted to make it through ski season. So you were able to manipulate him to get enough space in his hip so that he could make it through ski season before he actually had to go through the surgery. So the gamut of services that you offer is unbelievable. And what I'd like to do is share with the audience what they can expect when they come there, because they can get a free consultation with you, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and I encourage that for people to come in and see if it's a good fit and to actually, learn and understand kind of how I'm different and to see if it works for them. So for me, when people come in, basically what I'm going to do is obviously, taking all the information that they share with me is critical, really being a good listener and making sure that I understand what my clients and my patients are dealing with and what their lifestyle's like, and try to, because I tailor my approach to my patients and clients to what their lifestyle is, what they need, what they're looking for, and finding out how to implement a treatment plan or a program that's going to serve them best in their life, their lifestyle, and also, taking into account their occupation, their recreational activities, things like that. And then it's a whole body approach, because I always tell people that you can't just have physical injury. Physical injuries affect you mentally and emotionally. Mm-hmm. So if you're not getting enough sleep, I help with, people with, make recommendations about that. If you're not controlling your stress and anxiety level, if you're in pain, you can have a lot of stress and anxiety, but stress and anxiety can also cause pain. So trying to deal and mitigate as many of the factors that can limit them physically, in trying to put a whole package together that works for them is really kind of what I'm about. And also not just dealing with their injury. It's really about having people understand their body and what they need to do from a long-term wellness perspective to function at the highest level, no matter what, whether you're a young athlete, a competitive athlete, or you're someone that's retired and just wants to stay active and mobile, playing pickleball, playing golf, things like that. So that's really what I'm about, is really unlocking people's kind of potential. And some of the biggest things that I get for working with people is that, like, oh my God, I didn't know how good I could feel. I didn't know this was possible. And it's not, our bodies are amazing when you give it the right input. And my job is to try to figure that out and help everyone try to feel as amazing as they can.
So the last question before we depart, and again, we are here with Dr. Mark Powicki of Powicki Physical Therapy in Duxbury. I've heard you say your body's like your car. What do you mean by that? So
your body, people take good care of their cars, but it's amazing what we put our bodies through, whether it's, posture, sports, injuries, things like that. It's the only vehicle that you'll live in for the rest of your life. It's the only vehicle that you'll drive. And if you don't take care of it, you hear stories about people that retire, and not for anything, people retire and, they think, oh, I'm going to start doing this and, I'm going to do this activity and do that. But not for anything. There's a lot of sad stories about people that retire and they die sooner than they want. But if you take care of your body, do regular checkups, learn what you can do, how to function, if you want to access it later on in life and live your best life, take care of it now, be preventative, be proactive, and it'll make a huge difference.
Lots of great tips and tricks from Dr. Mark Powicki of Powicki Physical Therapy. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you again for having me.